Just 1 hour ago, Princess Anne delivered what may be her most defining and devastating statement yet. In a solemn address from Buckingham Palace, she confirmed that Queen Camilla will not be returning to royal duties for the foreseeable future. The announcement, brief but chilling, signals a permanent shift in the monarchy's power structure. With King Charles battling declining health and public trust in freefall, Anne's words feel less like an update and more like a final verdict. As Britain reels, one truth has become undeniable. The reign of Queen Camilla may have just ended, quietly but completely. The shocking morning statement. At exactly 9:45 a.m. on October 1st, 2025, the royal rhythm fractured. Princess Anne, dressed in muted navy and flanked by only 3 aides, walked into the royal press hall. A rare sight for a royal not known for spontaneous theatrics. Her presence alone turned heads, but what she carried with her, a single sheet of cream stationery embossed with the Windsor crest, would detonate across the nation. She spoke plainly, with deep regret. Her Majesty Queen Camilla will be stepping back from royal duties due to a critical private matter. In that single sentence, Anne disrupted palace procedure, national expectation, and centuries of tightly scripted royal communication. No spokesperson, no press officer, just Anne, one of the last royals with unchallenged credibility, taking the mic and telling the country what it had not expected to hear. Within 15 minutes, news outlets, BBC, Sky News, and Reuters, had dropped scheduled programming. The name Camilla surged to 1.3 million online mentions in under an hour. Reporters scrambled for context, but the palace offered nothing more. The Queen Consort was gone from the public stage, and no one, including insiders, could say when or if she would return. More telling than what Anne said was how she said it. She bypassed the palace press corps and issued her statement live, with no teleprompter, no emotional flourish, and no follow-up questions. For the first time in over a decade, a senior royal took full ownership of a public crisis, without the palace spin machine in tow. It felt not rehearsed, but urgent, and that urgency spoke volumes. But the real story wasn't just Anne's words, it was what had already been unfolding in silence. Long before the press hall was filled, Camilla had vanished, slipping from royal view without explanation. Her calendar, blank. Her charities, silent. And across Britain, people were starting to piece together a disappearance that now felt less like rest and more like exile. The disappearance no one expected. By the time Anne's statement reached its final word, public interest had already collided with a stark timeline. Queen Camilla's last confirmed appearance had been on September 24th during a literacy outreach event in Bath. Since then, her official calendar had gone blank. Not a single royal engagement was listed between September 25th and October 10th, an unprecedented gap for the consort. The public began piecing it together in real time. A black Range Rover, registered to Clarence House, had been seen leaving the grounds on September 28th, but no images of Camilla surfaced. Multiple scheduled appearances, including 2 high-profile visits with the National Literacy Trust and the Royal Voluntary Service, were suddenly postponed, then quietly removed from listings altogether. What was most telling, however, were the whispers within palace walls. Sources close to the Queen's private staff confirmed a phrase that had never been used in relation to Camilla before: forced withdrawal. According to 2 senior aides, this wasn't about illness. There's no medical briefing, no mention of exhaustion. This is political, one stated bluntly, and it was coming for weeks. The parallels were too loud to ignore. Commentators immediately drew comparisons to Princess Diana's 1996 withdrawal following the collapse of her marriage and the Queen Mother's temporary disappearance in 1964, following a bitter internal family feud. Camilla's silence was no longer an absence. It had become a statement, the kind not spoken, but felt. Yet even in absence, Camilla remained a presence, lurking behind headlines, dominating whispers in palace halls. But the timing of Anne's announcement wasn't coincidence. It was precision. Because for weeks, something had been building behind closed doors. And now all eyes turned to the woman who had dared to detonate the silence, Princess Anne, and the calculated timing that changed everything. Anne's calculated timing. At 75 years old, with more than 500 annual engagements, Princess Anne is the monarchy's most disciplined figure. Her choice to step forward publicly, breaking silence, tradition, and protocol, was not impulsive. According to two royal correspondents and a source from Kensington Palace, Anne had begun drafting her address as early as September 20th, after attending a private family meeting where tensions had peaked. Her move to bypass the palace press office was strategic. She did not want interference. She did not want Camilla's inner circle reframing the message. She wanted clarity and full control. One palace official described her tone as military grade. It was a deliberate strike, planned with precision. And in doing so, Anne communicated not just a change in schedule, but a change in power alignment. Polls that followed proved the nation approved. In a YouGov survey conducted on October 2nd, 68% of Britons expressed support for Anne's handling of the crisis. Among those under age 45, trust in her as a royal spokesperson nearly doubled overnight. Anne's legacy, long quiet, had crystallized. The truth teller, the guardian, the only royal some still believed without question. Was this loyalty to Charles? Protection of the monarchy? Or a final line drawn against a woman Anne had reportedly never fully embraced? Whatever the reason, one thing was clear. Anne had just reset the rules of royal engagement, and the monarchy would never move quite the same again. But while Anne faced the cameras, Buckingham Palace fell into quiet crisis. Inside its marbled walls, aides scrambled, phones rang unanswered, and protocols dissolved under pressure. What had begun as a speech was now a seismic shift, and the institution was forced to respond. Whether King Charles had sanctioned the move or not, the palace had only two choices: contain the fire or get burned by it. Buckingham Palace in crisis mode. Within minutes of Anne's seismic announcement, the atmosphere at Buckingham Palace shifted from structured routine to chaos veiled in ceremonial calm. The palace's central command, typically disciplined and reactive, found itself overwhelmed by a wave of questions no one was prepared to answer. Behind the gilded gates, aides scrambled to prepare an internal damage report. Courtiers described the atmosphere as unanchored and electrified, with senior officials canceling meetings to focus entirely on message control. Inside the Royal Communications Office, press secretaries were ordered to draft multiple versions of a holding statement. One leaned on health-related language. Another framed the situation as a private sabbatical. Neither was released. For nearly 6 hours, no official palace comment emerged, leaving news outlets and citizens alike to fill the void with speculation. Every door seemed closed, every phone line redirected. The silence grew louder than any denial. Was King Charles blindsided or complicit Conflicting reports emerged. One aide claimed Charles had received Anne's full statement in advance and agreed to its release. Another countered, saying he was only briefed after Anne had booked the press room. If Charles had known, his reaction didn't suggest comfort. Insiders described him as tight-lipped and ashen-faced, reportedly canceling a call with the Prime Minister that morning. The monarchy's image of unity was fracturing again. Camilla's absence rippled through the institution. She wasn't just a figurehead, she was a bridge between factions within the family, especially between Charles and certain aristocratic circles. Her sudden removal left those alliances untethered. As contingency plans activated and confidential folders were pulled from vaults, one truth loomed large. This was not a drill. And no one, not even Charles, seemed certain of what would happen next. Yet, amid the internal chaos, one force moved steadily forward: Prince William and Princess Catherine. As the monarchy tilted on its axis, the couple emerged from the storm with poise and presence. Their actions in the hours that followed didn't just steady the ship, they signaled something deeper, something generational, something inevitable. William and Catherine stepped forward. Just hours after Princess Anne's shocking press address, Prince William and Princess Catherine arrived in Manchester for a previously scheduled visit to a local veterans center. The event had been planned for weeks, but now it became symbolic. As cameras clicked and reporters jostled for position, William offered a calm handshake to each veteran in line. Catherine bent down to speak with children seated on the floor, offering the kind of intimate, unscripted gestures that echoed Diana's grace. Their appearance was no accident. Palace officials confirmed that both William and Catherine were advised to cancel, but they insisted on attending. One senior aide remarked, "They understood the weight of the moment. This wasn't a photo op. It was a signal. That signal was received loud and clear." By the end of the day, news outlets across the globe had framed their appearance as a soft coronation, not in title, but in trust. Polls backed the narrative. A Snap YouGov survey released that evening showed 78% approval for William and Catherine, their highest rating to date. In stark contrast, Camilla's numbers plummeted to 15%, marking the sharpest single-week drop in royal polling history. Hashtags like #CatherineOurQueen and #WilliamRising trended for hours, drawing more than 10 million engagements by nightfall. The public had made up its mind. The future was already here. Despite the optics, neither William nor Catherine made any public statement about Anne's address or Camilla's withdrawal, but their silence, paired with visibility, spoke volumes. Behind the scenes, sources confirmed that William had begun assuming additional duties, including internal briefings and regional oversight on scheduled engagements. Catherine, too, was reported to be working closely with Kensington staff to reorganize her calendar, preparing to absorb responsibilities from the now vacant consort's schedule. Still, the most deafening voice remained silent. For days, Queen Camilla offered no response, no appearance, no sign of presence beyond the cold steel gates of Clarence House. In a family where absence has always meant more than presence, Camilla's continued invisibility became its own kind of story, and the nation leaned in to listen. Camilla's silence becomes the story. By October 8th, Queen Camilla had not been seen or heard from in 8 full days. Her unexplained absence had become the longest of her public life since entering the royal spotlight in the early 2000s. With every passing hour, speculation grew. And with no new photo, no quoted source, and no visual update from Clarence House, Camilla's silence transformed from curious to symbolic. Initially, palace aides insisted she was merely resting, but even that word felt deliberately vague. When the Times requested clarification, the palace issued a 21-word reply. Her Majesty is resting at home and is grateful for the support she has received during this time. No photos, no timeline, no return date. It did not ease the storm. Her charities followed suit. The National Literacy Trust, Emmaus UK, and the Royal Osteoporosis Society all postponed upcoming appearances or removed mentions of Camilla from their promotional materials. One staff member from a Camilla-linked charity told The Guardian, "We were asked to go completely silent. No statements, no posts, no comments." It was as if the Queen had been erased. Public sentiment split sharply. Some royalists defended her right to privacy. But among the broader public, critics called her disappearance an abdication in disguise. Opinion columns dubbed her the Invisible Queen. Protest signs began appearing outside royal properties with the words, "Where is the Queen?" Meanwhile, online commentators dug into archived interviews analyzing Camilla's past reactions to pressure. It was clear the silence wasn't working. It was backfiring. But while Camilla's absence grew louder than words, another drama unfolded beyond public view. At Sandringham, the heart of the monarchy's private estate, a secret gathering of the kingdom's most powerful royals was already underway, one that would reshape the very balance of royal power. Behind closed doors at Sandringham. On the cool morning of October 9th, the royal helicopter landed discreetly at Sandringham Estate. The passengers were not made public, but sharp-eyed reporters confirmed 4 key names: King Charles, Princess Anne, Prince William, and 2 senior royal advisors. Notably absent, Queen Camilla. For royal watchers, this confirmed what insiders had whispered for days. A private summit was underway, and it was happening without the woman whose disappearance had sparked the firestorm. Inside the estate's heavily guarded wood farm, conversations stretched for nearly 6 hours, beginning at 10:30 a.m. and continuing until dusk. According to a source close to the royal household, Princess Anne, who had delivered the bombshell statement just days earlier, led the discussion with what was described as military-level precision. The key topics on the agenda: Camilla's role, the health of the king, and succession planning in the event of an unexpected transition. Observers say the 75-year-old king appeared emotionally torn and physically drained. One aide described his demeanor as resigned, like a man who knew a decision had been taken without him, but had accepted it out of necessity. Prince William, for his part, reportedly spoke little during the meeting, instead listening intently as Anne and Charles went back and forth. His silence spoke volumes. He was no longer a bystander. He was the inevitable next step. As the meeting closed around 4:45 p.m., a few key decisions were quietly enacted. First, the redistribution of Camilla's upcoming engagements to Princess Catherine and Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh. Second, a soft transition of ceremonial leadership in royal charities. No press releases were issued, no announcements made. But behind the scenes, the monarchy had just begun its most significant reshuffling since Queen Elizabeth II's passing in 2022. As the royal chessboard shifted in secret, the media battlefield ignited. The public, kept in the dark for too long, turned its attention and its anger toward the palace, and what followed was nothing short of a communication collapse. The media firestorm. By October 10th, every major British newspaper featured one face across its front page: Not William or Charles, but Queen Camilla, or rather, her absence. The Guardian headlined, "The Vanishing Queen," while Sky News launched an hour-long special report titled, "Inside the Crisis: The Royal Family Under Fire." Even CNN International picked up the coverage, broadcasting to a global audience now gripped by a royal mystery. Online platforms were flooded. Within a 48-hour period, hashtag Camilla Crisis, hashtag Princess Anne Warning, and hashtag Where is the Queen generated over 17 million posts across X, formerly Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. On TikTok alone, compilations of Anne's speech juxtaposed with Diana's infamous 1995 Panorama interview drew 12 million views in a single day. The narrative was spinning, and it was no longer in the palace's control. Media analysts openly questioned the monarchy's strategy. One BBC commentator said, "When you leave a vacuum in the modern age, the public doesn't wait. They fill it with fear, speculation, and fury." Even once loyal newspapers like the Daily Telegraph asked pointedly whether Anne had gone rogue or whether Charles had relinquished control. The press consensus was brutal. This wasn't just poor communication. It was a total collapse of palace credibility. International reactions began flooding in. French papers referenced the drama as La Crise de la Couronne, while Australian anchors speculated whether Prince William would ascend by winter. Behind the palace walls, communications teams worked round the clock, rewriting draft statements, negotiating with broadcasters, and pleading with royal-friendly journalists to stall harsher coverage. But the truth was simple and damning. The world saw chaos, and the crown was losing its grip. But as global media devoured the mystery, the people of Britain rendered their verdict. And it came not in headlines, but in numbers, polls, and peaceful demonstrations, offering a glimpse into the monarchy's rapidly shifting foundation. The public verdict. By the evening of October 11th, the numbers were in, and they were staggering. A YouGov poll conducted over 48 hours showed 72% of respondents wanted Prince William and Princess Catherine to assume full-time royal roles immediately. Even more striking, only 11% supported a return to public life for Queen Camilla. The tide had turned, and it had turned fast. Protests, small but symbolic, began appearing outside Kensington Palace and Clarence House. Dozens of signs read, "The Queen we choose, Catherine," while others simply said, "Diana would be proud." TikTokers created side-by-side clips of Catherine comforting children and Camilla avoiding cameras, racking up millions of likes. Even younger royals like Princess Beatrice and Eugenie were spotted offering support, quietly appearing at William's recent engagements, a subtle but pointed gesture of allegiance. The generational divide was now clear. Millennials and Gen Z favored William and Catherine as the faces of a modern monarchy. Meanwhile, older generations expressed worry, less about Camilla and more about the monarchy's stability. One op-ed in the Times stated, "It's not about who deserves the throne. It's about whether the throne can even hold a chilling sentiment," and one increasingly shared across party lines. Finally, the palace released a vague 21-word statement. Her Majesty the Queen is resting and grateful for the support shown during this period of reflection. But few believed it. Commentators blasted it as hollow. For many Britons, it confirmed what they feared. Camilla had not stepped back. She had been removed. And then came the final tremor, the realization that what had begun as a silence was now reshaping the future. This wasn't a PR blunder or a temporary disappearance. This was history turning its page. The monarchy's tipping point. On October 12, 2025, Exactly 11 days after Anne's fateful speech, the monarchy entered uncharted territory. No official abdication, no formal reshuffle, but every symbol, every engagement, every poll now pointed to one reality. Queen Camilla's reign may be functionally over, and in her place, without fanfare or coronation, Princess Catherine had begun to rise. Within 24 hours, royal correspondence confirmed that 5 of Camilla's charities had quietly transferred patronage to Catherine and Sophie. Prince William began presiding over constitutional briefings with Home Secretary Daniel Holt, tasks previously managed by Charles. And perhaps most telling, Sandringham's royal crest, which bore Camilla's initials, was discreetly removed from official flags and stationery. Inside the palace, whispers of the soft handover began circulating. Anne's speech, once seen as defiant, was now hailed as courageous. She had done what others could not. She forced the crown to confront its most uncomfortable truth. The people had moved on, and the monarchy, if it wished to survive, would have to follow. For King Charles, this chapter will be remembered with sorrow. His loyalty to Camilla, once his greatest rebellion, had now become his greatest liability. His silence, however dignified, cost the monarchy precious trust. But in William and Catherine, the public saw not just a replacement, they saw redemption. October 1st, 2025 will be etched in royal history as the day the quietest princess, Anne, spoke the loudest. And from that moment, the monarchy would never be the same again. The monarchy has survived abdications, divorces, deaths, and scandals, but the quiet removal of Queen Camilla may become one of its most quietly seismic moments. Princess Anne's final announcement, delivered without emotion but filled with consequence, marked a closing chapter. The palace hoped it would never have to write. No apology, no elaboration, just a sentence that now echoes through every corridor of Clarence House, Kensington Palace, and across the country. Sources close to the royal household say Camilla was not present during Anne's statement and has not spoken publicly since her sudden withdrawal earlier this month. Behind closed doors, there is talk of retreat, not return. Those once loyal to her, staffers, advisors, even public supporters, have reportedly shifted focus to William and Catherine, now considered the monarchy's true center of gravity. This isn't just a personnel change, it's a redefining of the monarchy's emotional architecture. Camilla's rise was always fraught with complication, tied to history, shadowed by Princess Diana, and steeped in decades of public skepticism. Her fall, by contrast, has been swift, silent, and sanctioned from within. Princess Anne's involvement ensured it had the weight of royal judgment, not just personal opinion. In doing so, Anne didn't just speak for herself. She spoke for the institution. In the days to come, King Charles's next move will be scrutinized like never before. Will he publicly acknowledge the shift? Will he defend Camilla, or quietly accept her erasure from royal life? Insiders suggest the king is heartbroken but realistic, aware that his loyalty to Camilla cannot override the crown's need for survival. Public sentiment has also crystallized. Early polls conducted within hours of Anne's address show 68% of Britons believe Camilla should formally step down from public life. Only 14% expressed strong support for her return. Meanwhile, support for William and Catherine has surged past 80%, marking their highest approval rating since their wedding in 2011. For the first time in years, the public seems unified, not just in grief, but in direction. And so a new chapter begins, not with fanfare, but with finality. Camilla's image will not be erased entirely. Her legacy will remain complicated. her role in Charles's life undeniable. But her active place within the royal machine has ended. Princess Anne, never one to speak unless necessary, has now spoken, and her words carry the weight of history. What comes next will define the future of the monarchy. But one thing is certain: Queen Camilla has exited the stage, not with scandal, but with silence. And that silence now speaks louder than ever.